This episode is brought to you by Stirling Soap Company. Fellas, you've heard the phrase, look good, feel good, right? But why not add smell good to that too? That's where Stirling Soap Company comes in. First, Stirling Soap is 100% natural and has a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne. Second, there's a scent just for you. How about burgundy? Yeah, it's more than a color. The Stirling Soap folks blend natural essential oils with hints of mahogany, golden amber, and sandalwood. Or how about D503, an intensely masculine scent inspired by Legend by Mont Blanc. And third, you will feel good about the price. For just a little more than you'd pay at the grocery store, Stirling Soap will leave you feeling clean, refreshed, and ready for whatever's next. Give Stirling Soap a try today. Visit stirlingsoap.com. Are you a hockey fan? Then you'll love Eric Zweig's new book, Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2. It's a treasure trove of untold tales, bizarre incidents, and captivating trivia that will leave even the most devoted puckhead astounded. The intense rivalries, epic showdowns, and historic clashes that shaped the NHL's early years, it's all in there. Zweig uncovers the true stories that helped shape the sport, ensuring that you will never look at hockey the same way again. Check out Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2 on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. Welcome back to This Day in Sports History, a daily rewind to those great sports memories of years ago. This dish is a member of the Sports History Network. You can find more at sportshistorynetwork.com. It's November 3rd, and if you're one of the 29 million people who will set your lineup today and play fantasy football, well, you can thank a meeting that happened on this day back in 1962 in New York City that put all of that in motion. Wilfred Winkenbach was a minority owner of the Oakland Raiders of the AFL. The Raiders were in New York City for a game on the 4th against the New York Titans. The Raiders were a horrible team. They were 0-7 at this point on their way to a 1-13 season. The team was staying at the Hotel Manhattan. Winkenbach was hanging out with Bill Tunnell, who did media relations for the Raiders, and Scott Stirling, who covered the team for the Oakland Tribune. The trio was having a few drinks in the hotel bar, talking about the dismal season that the Raiders were having, and Winkenbach had a thought. Wouldn't it be great if we could draft our own players, use their stats, and we are the owners and then control our team? It would be a nice distraction from how bad this team that they worked for or were covering actually was. So Winkenbach, Tunnell, and Stirling started working on the rules. It took a little time, but in August of 1963, they had their first fantasy draft. Each team consisted of 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 6 receivers, 2 defensive backs, and a special teams player like a kick returner. It was touchdowns only, so you didn't need a kicker. The number 1 pick in that first draft, well, it was the ageless George Blanda. Number 2 in the draft was Jim Brown. The guys in the original league had no grand plans for this becoming a thing that millions would play every week. They were happy to just keep it between themselves. Except for one guy, Andy Musolimus. You can thank Winkenbach for the idea and getting this thing up and running, but if it wasn't for Musolimus, we may never have enjoyed the fun and the frustration of fantasy football. Musolimus had a bar in Oakland, and he shared the idea with patrons of his bar, and the word started to spread. And then, aided by the personal computer of the 80s and the modem to connect everybody in a shared space, fantasy football started to grow. And from that point, it continued a nice, steady growth of men and women gathering in some dude's musty basement with stats, charts, limited actual knowledge, and high hopes, tossing $20 into a jar for the winner at the end of the year into an $11 billion industry. So, good luck today. Have fun. Don't forget to check if any of your guys has a bye week, and hopefully you don't have the guy who scores 4 touchdowns today sitting on your bench. On this day in 1952, the University of Kentucky's upcoming basketball season was canceled by the NCAA. This came on the heels of the SEC's ruling in August, suspending Kentucky from playing any conference games for the upcoming year. This was all a result of the points-shaving scandals and the ensuing investigations into several college basketball teams, including Kentucky, during the 1947 through 50 seasons. The points-shaving scandals that initially exposed New York City colleges, such as Manhattan, CCNY, Long Island University, started to spiderweb its way out. Other programs like St. Joe's in Philadelphia, Toledo, Bradley got caught up. Kentucky players Ralph Beard, Alex Groza, and Dale Barnstable had been arrested for accepting $500 to shave points in the Wildcats NIT game against Loyola Chicago. Groza and Beard had been on 2 of the 3 NCAA championship teams in the previous 5 years. Bill Spivey was also caught up in it. Now, Spivey led the nation in scoring in 1951, and he was an All-American center for the Wildcats. In the weeks leading up to this point, Spivey had been prohibited from playing in the upcoming season, though no evidence had ever been presented of any points shaving on his part, accepting of bribes, or any other violation. There had only been rumors. Other infractions pointed out by the NCAA were several $50 payments to basketball players heading off to the NCAA tournament in 1948 and 49, payments of $50 each to players by outside sports enthusiasts, as they were called, to players in December of 1950, along with additional payments from coaches and people connected to the team. The NCAA also ruled that Coach Adolph Rupp and his assistants were knowledgeable about all of the infractions. Rupp at one time had made the statement that the NCAA could not reach my boys with a 10-foot pole. He admitted later to paying a few players for good performances, but said he had no knowledge of points shaving. The loss of the season certainly hurt, but they did come back the following year and pick right back up where they left off, winning the SEC and going 25-0. On this day in the wild college football season of 2007, Navy finally broke the stranglehold that Notre Dame had on its program for more than 40 years. The Navy-Notre Dame rivalry stretches back to 1927, and at this point in 2007 was the longest uninterrupted rivalry between teams not in the same conference, and it had been 43 years since Navy had posted a win against the Fighting Irish. The streak started in 1964 with an emphatic 40-0 win by Ara Parsegian's Notre Dame team. And even though the score was lopsided, the previous history didn't really point to a 43-year reign of domination. Prior to the win in '64, Navy had won 5 of the previous 8, but after the '64 game, it was rarely close. There was the 1976 game when Navy had a late-game 4th down pass in the end zone broken up and they lost by 6. The 1984 heartbreaker when John Carney kicked a field goal with 14 seconds left and the midshipmen lost by a point, a close call in '99. Or it was more like a fortuitous spot on a 4th down to give the Irish life and another last-second game-winning field goal in 2003 to preserve the Irish streak. It was 43 years of frustration and heartache. Now, it did not hurt that Navy was playing a very bad Notre Dame team under head coach Charlie Weiss. The Fighting Irish didn't have much fight in them in '07, and they were 1-7 at this point in the season. The midshipmen under Paul Johnson were a solid 500 team. Notre Dame scored first in this one and led 21-14 at the half. Navy took its first lead of the game in the 4th after a scoop and score and a 2-point conversion made it 28-21. The Irish scored a touchdown to tie it up and actually had an opportunity to win the game in regulation. With 45 seconds left and facing a 4th and 8 at Navy's 24-yard line, instead of attempting the 41-yard field goal, Weiss went for the 1st down and failed miserably. Quarterback Evan Sharpley was sacked and the game went to overtime. Both teams scored touchdowns in the first OT and each kicked a field goal in the second OT. In the third overtime, if a team scored a touchdown, they had to go for 2. Navy found the end zone on the first play, and here's the call from NBC's Tom Hammond and Pat Hayden from that day.
1st down, fake toss. Heupel Noah to pass for the end zone, man open, and it is caught for the touchdown. Reggie Campbell.
How about the play calling by Paul Johnson? Twice in overtime, he's opened the overtime period with passes. Both
Kaipo Noah would connect with Campbell on the 2-point conversion to make it an 8-point game, and the pressure shifted to the Irish. Notre Dame faced a 4th and 1 at the 5, but were able to find the end zone for the 6. The ensuing 2-point conversion failed, but a questionable flag for pass interference gave them one more shot, this time from 1.5 yards out. The Irish decided to run it.
So here we go again. Travis Thomas is back in at tailback. Thomas fighting, stopped, and this time it's official. The streak has ended at Notre Dame Stadium on November 3rd, 2007. For the first time since 1963, Navy has beaten Notre Dame.
Are you a hockey fan? Then you'll love Eric Zweig's new book, Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2. It's a treasure trove of untold tales, bizarre incidents, and captivating trivia that will leave even the most devoted puckhead astounded. The intense rivalries, epic showdowns, and historic clashes that shaped the NHL's early years, it's all in there. Zweig uncovers the true stories that helped shape the sport, ensuring that you will never look at hockey the same way again. Check out Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2 on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. Turning the clock back a few years to 1990, when it was an aerial battle over the state of Texas. This was the Houston Cougars and the TCU Horned Frogs inside the Astrodome. Houston was riding an 11-game winning streak stretching back to 1989. Horned Frog QB Matt Vogler took to the air in an attempt to bring that streak to an end. It was only the second start for Vogler, but he put on a show. He completed 44 of 79 passes for an NCAA record 690 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. Vogler spread his passes around and shared the wealth with 5 Horned Frog receivers, having 100-yard reception days. Cougar quarterback David Klingler also knew how to air it out and came close to equaling Vogler's completion and yardage numbers, completing 36 of 53 passes for 563 yards and 7 touchdowns. That was Klingler's second straight game with 7 touchdown passes, and Houston prevailed 56-35. The Cougars and the Frogs combined for an NCAA record 1,563 yards of total offense and 1,253 passing yards. Vogler's record of 690 passing yards stood for less than a month, and it was actually Klingler who bettered it on December 2nd with a 716-yard, 7-touchdown performance against Arizona. And on this day in 1961, the Boston Patriots got a little help from a fan to secure a win against the Dallas Texans. The Patriots and the Texans had just played each other 5 days before this, with the Pats winning that one 18-17 at the Cotton Bowl. The game on this day was back in Boston at University Field. The Patriots had begun to turn their season around after firing head coach Lou Saban after a 2-3 start. Under new coach Mike Holovac, things were coming together. After Boston's Ron Burton ran a kickoff back 91 yards, the Pats had a 28-21 lead heading into the fourth quarter. Possessions were exchanged, but neither team could make their way back to the end zone. With time winding down under 30 seconds, the Texans had the ball at their own 42-yard line. They ran a slow-developing double reverse pass, but it worked. Texan QB Cotton Davidson hit Chris Burford, who reeled it in triple coverage and was tackled at the 2-yard line. At that point, Boston fans lining the perimeter rushed onto the field, thinking the game was over. But there was still time on the clock, and the referees gave the Texans an untimed down from the 2. After police had cleared the field, Dallas lined up for the final play. And as Davidson barked out his cadence, a Boston fan ran into the end zone and set up as an extra linebacker. He was standing next to one official and in front of another, and yet they either did not see him or simply didn't care. Davidson got the snap, threw to a receiver, and, well, the fan read the play nicely and took a swat at the ball as it sailed incomplete. And that was it. No redo, no penalty flag, incomplete pass, game over. The Patriots won 28-21. It's funny, but you also have to wonder why nobody protested. And if you'd like to watch the play yourself, I put a link in the show notes. And time now for today's Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. Years before the glitzy mansions and the expensive stores of Rodeo Drive, Beverly Hills was home to a 1.25-mile oval motor speedway. It opened in 1920 on 275 acres, and it had a grandstand to seat 70,000 spectators. It didn't last long, though. It was torn down in 1924. That's all for today. How about stopping back in tomorrow on your morning commute, or maybe when you take the dog for a walk, or carve out a little you time to check out another fun edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.